and she is actually a single mother to 2 boys. And actually, if you see her, it will shock the life out of you. Kasi magugulat ka to find out that she already has a 21-year-old son. Actually, napagkakamalan sila palaging mag-boyfriend. Ganun siya kaganda.
Okay.
But you know what? More than the beauty, this woman is a woman of strength, a woman of courage, and most especially, she is a woman of faith. So without further ado, I would like to introduce to you our Cheri this morning. Please prepare all your tissue papers because it's going to be heartwarming and very touching. Let's all welcome with the love of the Lord. Let's give a big hand to Miss Cheri Roberto.
Good morning. My name is Cheri Roberto. I'm a single mom of 2 boys. My eldest son, Bam, is 22, and my youngest, Bruce, was 14. I'd like to talk about my youngest son, Bruce. Bruce was a cool kid. He was kind and had a big heart. He was tall, almost 6 feet, with wild curly hair. You could spot him from afar when you see his afro sticking out of the crowd. His smile and hug would never fail to brighten my day. He was sweet and super malambing, especially to his super kuya Bam. He loved skateboarding and hanging out with friends. I'd bring him to the park or his friend's house where he and his homies would just skate all day and night. He also loved music, singing, and rapping. Have you ever tried rapping? Ang hirap ah. But Bruce rapped to a beat effortlessly, like a modern-day poet, and entertained his friends while they watched and listened. Every now and then, before Bruce would go to sleep, I'd tell him something I'd also tell his brother, which was, you know what? I'm so lucky. You know why? And he'd say, why? Because out of all the boys in the world, I got the best one. Then he'd smile and say, oh, mama. And I'd hug him to sleep. As my Bam and my Bruce turned into teenagers, the less I saw of them. But it was okay as long as we'd have our huggin' lovin' time. I'd usually jump into Brucey's bed and he'd wrap his long, lanky legs around me and hug me tight. Then his kuya Bam would join us, and I'd have the 2 most precious people in my life in each arm, hugging me and giving me sandwich kisses. And this to me was heaven. I could die a happy woman right there and then. Two years ago, in 2012, I was awakened by a phone call at 4 a.m. That would change my life forever. My friend was on the line. She was the mother of the best friend of Bruce. And she was hysterical and crying. I could hardly understand what she was saying. She told me to come quickly to Acacia Street in our village. As I asked her what was wrong and what was happening, the line got cut. My heart was pounding fast as I quickly got up, dressed up, and headed out the door. I tried calling Bruce on his cell phone, but I couldn't connect. The night before, he asked me if he could sleep over at a friend's house, and I reluctantly agreed. On my way to Acacia Street, I could see a commotion happening by the sidewalk. I parked my car and headed to the site. It was surrounded by cars, people, and a yellow tape that says, "Do not cross." The kind I only see in movies and TV crime scenes. I walked towards the sidewalk and I saw my Brucey lying face down on the pavement, unconscious. It was every mother's nightmare. He wasn't moving. He had a big bloody gash on his forehead. His nose was bloody, and I also noticed his hand was severely bent and dislocated. I thought he was just unconscious, so I didn't want to move him. I just sat beside him and caressed him and wondered how many days he would be confined in the hospital for this. Surely, his arm would be in a cast. I looked to the left, and there was another lifeless boy on the pavement. There was more blood. It was the best friend of Bruce. I looked to the right, and there was another body. It was another friend of Bruce. I looked further to the left again, and I saw a totally wrecked car in between a wall and a Meralco post. I was trying to figure out what happened. I was told that there were 4 boys in the car, my Brucey and 3 of his friends, 2 of whom were brothers. They were driving home after hanging out, lost control, and crashed into a wall and a post. All 4 boys were thrown out of the car and onto the sidewalk. Before I knew it, we were all in the ER. People around me were wailing and crying, pacing the floor and hugging each other. As the doctors tried to bring the boys back to life, I silently watched as a team of doctors and nurses worked to revive my Bruce. After a few minutes, the doctor stopped. He looked at me and he shook his head. As the nurses stepped away, I walked towards Bruce when a lady who was a hospital staff told me with a little smile, "You can still talk to him. He can still hear you." So I went to his lifeless body and I whispered in his ear, "I love you, Bruce. I love you." I thought to myself, this couldn't be happening. I could not believe it. I'm just a regular, normal person. I never thought a tragedy like this could ever happen to me and to my boy. Why Bruce? Why the brothers? Why were 4 precious lives taken away so soon? Sabay-sabay pa. Bruce was the youngest at 14. The other boys were 15 and 2 of them were just 16. So many things were running through my mind. I couldn't even cry. I was still in shock. My eldest son, Bam, finally arrived. And when I told him his brother was dead, he shouted and punched the floor. He broke his hand in the process, and I hugged him. Then we hugged Bruce, and it was our last hug and love in time. It was only by the grace of God that I was able to keep my composure in the following days during the wake and didn't lose my mind. Even I was surprised at how calm I was. I think I was just too numb from the pain. A friend came up to me with tears in his eyes and asked me, "Where do you get your strength?" Seeing how calm I was, I said with a forced smile, "Oh, I'm not always like this. I have my moments when I'm alone." But I knew the answer. It was God who was giving me strength. He was beside me all along, making sure I was okay. Before Bruce was cremated, I took one last look at him in his light blue coffin, and I finally broke down as I realized it would be the last time I would see his beautiful face and his messy curly hair. During the final Mass, our friend, Father Arnie, preached and said, "When we are born, we fall into our mother's arms. But when we die, we fall into the arms of Jesus." And I just had to believe that on that fateful early morning of the accident, Even before Bruce and the boys hit the pavement after being thrown out of the car, Jesus caught them in his arms, and they didn't even feel any pain. They just fell into the merciful arms of Jesus. How do you heal yourself after losing a child? How can you even smile again? I felt like someone had grabbed my heart from my chest and crushed it. Sobrang sakit talaga. I thought I would die from my broken heart. I would sometimes wish the Lord would take me and reunite me with my Bruce. But I could not do that to my family, especially to my other son, Bam. He needed me, and I needed him too. And so I put my trust in the Lord and opened myself to whatever help I could get to heal myself, to ease the pain. In a span of 1 year, I attended grief counseling, family counseling, a grief seminar, support groups like Grief Share, and the Ina Foundation. Ina is short for Mga Inang Naulila sa Anak, founded by Manay Gina de Venecia, who lost her daughter in a tragic fire. The bond I share with these mothers who have experienced what I have gone through gave me comfort. They shared their stories of strength and survival and helped me in my healing. I realized I was not alone. My confessor advised me to visualize the Pieta. As I pray for Mama Mary's intercession to help me through my grieving, she knows all too well the pain of losing a son to a tragic death. It was on a Good Friday like today that she held her lifeless son in her arms for the last time. I can now feel the pain she must have felt that day. I pray the rosary more often now and dedicate each bead to Bruce and the boys and our surviving families. I also request her to give Bruce a big hug for me, just the way I used to hug him. I've learned that there was no use on dwelling on what ifs. What if I didn't let Bruce sleep over that night? What if I was stricter in disciplining him? What if we migrated to the States as we planned earlier? What if, what if, what if? But no matter what did or did not do, what I did or did not do, it happened. And there was nothing I could do but accept it. I don't believe it was God's plan because I hold on to His promise to prosper us and not harm us. And that's why I wasn't mad at God. All I know is that we live in an imperfect world, and God does not plan these violent tragedies to happen to young boys. In the past 2 years, I've spent more time in front of the Blessed Sacrament. Here I lift up to Jesus all my heartaches. I imagine Jesus sitting beside me in the pew, and He gently takes my head and leans it on His shoulder for me to cry on. He wraps me in His embrace, and I feel His love healing me. Here, I also imagine hugging my Brucey. Then Jesus joins in for a group hug. I've learned to offer and surrender all to the Lord. And when all else fails, prayer is the only way to go. The grace of acceptance came slowly and difficultly. How could I accept that I would never see my Bruce again? He was here one day and gone the next. It was like he just vanished. I was in denial for a while and tried thinking that he was just in his friend's house sleeping over. But he never came back home. How I miss my Bruce.
How could I accept that I'd never see him fall in love, have a girlfriend? I would never see him go off to college and get his first job, never see his wedding day. But instead, on the 40th day of his death, I held an urn full of his ashes in my hands, walking from the chapel's altar down the aisle to place him in his crypt, his final resting place. And I thought to myself, this is the closest I'll ever get to walking him down the aisle. I won't get to see his bride and my grandkids with funny curly hair and chinky eyes. And the hardest to accept was not being able to hold him in my arms and give him some hug and loving. But as the serenity prayer goes, Lord, teach me to accept the things I cannot change. And so I offered all my pain to God. And I focused and visualized taking the hand of Bruce, saying my proper goodbyes, giving him one last hug, and I surrendered and returned to the Lord the precious gift that he had lent to me, which was my youngest son, Bruce. I put Bruce's hand in the arms of Jesus, and I let go. Forgiveness is also a big step to healing. A few weeks after the accident, I went to the final resting place of Bruce's friend, the one who drove the car that led to their deaths. I was so mad at him, and I cried, "Why? Why did you have to do that?" I continued scolding him, just me alone with his spirit. Suddenly, after venting out all my anger and tears, I heard his sincere voice in my head saying, "I'm sorry, Tita. I didn't mean to do it. It was an accident. I'm sorry. Please forgive me." I stopped and I started to cry some more, and I said, "It's okay. It's okay." And I made peace with someone I thought I could never forgive. And I was finally also at peace with myself. I read that the best way you could honor your loved one is to live the best life you can. And so, I decided to rejoin the world of the living. I will never get over losing my son. I'm just getting used to having to live with the empty space in my heart that only God's love can fill. And as I think of Bruce every day, I started taking care of my deteriorating health and myself, trying to eat healthier and exercise. I've undergone a retreat in daily life, which has made me develop a deeper and more personal relationship with God as I get to know Him better and better through His Word and prayer. I've continued going to the feast, being blessed and learning and worshiping God. And I've brought my family and friends along to share with the blessings. I went back to work. I've been a practicing interior designer for a few years now, and finally decided to take the interior design board exams just 5 months after the accident. And by the grace of God and a little help from Bruce, I passed with flying colors. I joined life-changing conferences, seminars, and silent retreats to improve and educate myself. I started making investments for my future because I realized I still have a future to look forward to. I'm still a work in progress. I have good days and bad days when I just don't want to get up. I'm still grieving, but I'm trying to move forward the best way I can by just opening myself to the awesome plan God has for me. I know Bruce would only want the best life and happiness for his mama and his brother. God is faithful and will never stop loving me while he heals all my brokenness. I don't understand why this had to happen, but I have faith in God that he will turn my wounds into my strength. And maybe by sharing my story, others may be blessed and find the courage to go on living a full and eventually happy life. God heals the brokenhearted and makes all things new. Gratitude in time of sorrow is very hard. How can you be grateful for what happened? But being grateful is the first step to hope and healing. And everybody needs hope, especially at times like these. And so I pray, thank you, Lord, for loving me and keeping me in your warm embrace. As you comfort me and heal my broken heart, you never left my side in tragic and traumatic times, as well as good times. Thank you for my family, my friends, community, and career. I'm grateful for my only remaining son, Bam, who I love so much. And I'm grateful for the 14 wonderful years you lent me, my Bruce. I love you, my Brucey, and I love you, my Lord. Thank you for my life. Amen. Thank you.